So good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this webinar. My name is Neeraj Kumar, and I am the Director Partner Marketing at Automation Anywhere. Automation Anywhere is the global leader in robotics process automation. Now, today we are having this webinar in open discussion and exchange of ideas and thoughts amongst the group of senior leaders across the industry present over the forum today. So my request would be to take this opportunity and kind of ask questions, share your ideas, thoughts, and make it as much interactive as you can. I'll move on to the speakers today. We have Anand, who is the director at NewWave Computing, one of our very close partners, and he has been amongst the partners who has been very successful or successfully been able to take the right story about automation in the market. Then we'll have a customer speaker, Bhaskar Ranganatha, head of IT at Carl Zeiss. He'll be joining in some time from now. And then we have Ganesh Tyagarajan, Vice President at Automation Anywhere. So he'll be presenting a few slides to take you through on the market and some of the capabilities. Just before I pass it on to Anand, I'll just, just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, I would request if you can type it down in the chat box, and we'd be able to take it up once the presentation is done. And you can raise your hands as well as you can introduce and kind of also open your video while you're asking the questions. With that, I'll request Anand to kindly take it up. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Neeraj, and good morning to all of you. A very warm welcome, and thank you so much for joining this call and participating. We believe that given the environment that we are currently having this meeting in, and all of you are probably working from home, and the challenges are probably more acutely visible to all of us in terms of our being able to connect with each other or doing go ahead and do our day-to-day work. So some of us, I'm sure, are feeling quite handicapped. Some of us probably are liking this way of working too, and both are probably going to contribute to the overall business environment that we are all trying to nurture here. So thank you so much again for joining. And I thought today, given the kind of situation that we are in and the kind of challenges that we've been facing over the last one and a half months, I don't think it's been more acutely made us more acutely aware of all the external factors that actually make us relook and revisit the way we do our business. So just to share with you some of the things that probably all of us have understood and have resigned ourselves to clearly is that the post-COVID trends clearly indicate that we need to be building very resilient systems. Obviously, we need to be, from a societal aspect, I think we need to be addressing social inequality on the one side, and on the other side, we need to be encouraging social solidarity. We've seen that happening. And I think most importantly, I think what all of us have understood is that we need to have access to better healthcare. I think here in India, I think it's become very obvious to all of us that we seem to be clearly lacking on healthcare, and probably that's a focus area that we need to have for us personally as well as from a perspective of as a society. And when such things happen, when you have such kind of pandemics, or when you have a global situation that arises all of us, so that actually forces us to completely understand where we stand, some of the impacts these kind of changes have on our behavior can actually be an example. Could be, you know, when in World War II, when World War II was happening, one of the greatest impacts was that women's participation in the workforce increased, primarily because a large share of you know, the men folk were you know, employed and deployed in the war effort that was going on, and women were encouraged to fill in those jobs. And although there was a lot of skepticism, I think today it's very obvious that those were changes that were forced upon society, and we had to take some of those steps. So, given this kind of you know, how do I say, very dynamic kind of environment that we are in, I think the need of the hour for us all is to, the clear imperative is to be able to scrutinize very granular and high frequency data. No longer will aggregates, averages, and, you know, episodic statistic data will not really reveal the weak signals of change that keep happening for all of us and for our organizations. I don't think we can any longer count on it, because we need to get more granular. We need to be able to scrutinize it even more intensely. And I think companies will need to increasingly access and analyze very high frequency data without the luxury of providing for human error. That's going to become something that we will have to deal with, and we cannot afford human error in some of the data that we need to analyze. And I think that's where you know, RPA and, you know, robotic process automation will emerge as a viable means to do that. Firstly, I think it will clearly replace, you know, this soul-crushing drudgery of the human workforce. I'm sure many of you will understand when I say soul-crushing, it's basically that a lot of people go about doing things repeatedly, and employees, you know, need to grow out of doing those mundane tasks and to more exciting functions that can directly contribute to organizational growth. And I think more importantly, people would want to achieve very consistent and flawless outputs. I see that becoming, you know, intense need. And while of course all of those things will be something that will be an imperative for us, this is where I think we need to decide whether we want to focus on our pain areas and try to find ways how to elevate ourselves, or should we want to focus on the gain areas and decide what is it that we want to do, get things, where can we gain from, where can we grow from. And I think clearly RPA is going to help us stay ahead of competition and directly fuel you know, our mutual growth. So with that said, and I hope I've set the theme for today's talk, I now hand it over to Ganesh Tyagarajan to take it over from me. Ganesh, all yours.
Thank you so much, Anand, and a very warm welcome to everybody who's joined this webinar. We are going through tough times. This is a new norm. So ideally, we would have probably spoken about the digital workforce and shown you better demonstrations face to face. But I think the new norm is all, like Anand mentioned, we're all working from home. It's all digital, and we're trying to learn as we go along. I head cloud channels specifically at Automation Anywhere. I've been with the firm for a little over 4 years. My role is to essentially work with channel partners like Anand, ensure that they understand the program and help potential customers and customers like yourselves in your transformation journey. And the agenda over the next few minutes is, I'll make it as crisp as possible. I will start out by defining a digital workforce, and we will move on from there. We will look at a few specific use cases. I'll show you a couple of quick little demos, and the idea is to make it as interactive as possible. So when I finish, Anand and I will have a very brief chat and then open it up for questions. What I will do is, I'm assuming you all can see my screen. Neeraj, can you please confirm?
Yes, Ganesh.
Perfect. So let's start by really looking at what our future of work really holds today. And we will also define digital transformation over the next few minutes. Before we start that, let's define our intelligent digital workforce. Anand mentioned that moving forward, we will have some sort of a new norm when it really comes to the future of work. How do we really interact with each other? How do we look at taking out mundane, repetitive tasks that we do on a daily basis? It's essentially about taking the robot out of the human. The intelligent digital workforce is something that we coined about 10 years ago. And of course, as you know, we've been in the industry for about 14 odd years today. The intelligent digital workforce is a combination of many things. One of the key things of the intelligent digital workforce is robotic process automation. And Anand opened with something called RPA. For many of you who don't know what robotic process automation is robotic process automation is nothing but simple technology that works on a graphical user interface exactly like a human being. Robotic process automation is really technology that has the ability to switch from environments exactly like a human being. Robotic process automation is technology that has the ability to switch between applications exactly like how you would do in your daily routine. And robotic process automation, unlike human beings, can work 24/7/365. And like I said, it's all about taking the robot out of the human being. And RPA really is divided into two large buckets. One which doesn't require human intervention and just can continuously run in the background. Very, very critical for a lot of business processes that run, let's say, financial processes which don't require your inputs and just can keep running in the background. The other important aspects of RPA is really attended automation, which requires a human being to come and chug a process along. And why is that important? If you really look at a contact center today, when you really talk to a contact center rep, it's about empowering a human being with a digital worker. And in our mind, where a human being is really required to chug a process along is really the future of work. For us, it is about making sure that you and your employees can get out of these mundane, repetitive processes and have a real digital worker along with you to help you in your mundane, repetitive tasks. So if you can employ your own cognitive abilities to do something better, and I think that makes your day and that makes your job much easier. So that's robotic process automation. This really talks about structured rule-based data. For a lot of techies on the call today, a structured rule-based data really is all about if this, then do this. It's exactly how you would apply your daily routine. You exactly know what you need to do when you open your email, and there are rules built aside on how do you really get your daily routines going. What about unstructured data? There's a lot of data that really lies in the walls of an enterprise, which really is very unstructured, which requires a lot of machine learning, a lot of artificial intelligence to process that data. And really looking at semi-structured data as well, where you have a lot of possibilities to predict process outcomes. So what we have as part of the digital workforce is something where we use intelligent artificial intelligence and machine learning. And that really looks at processing a lot of unstructured, semi-structured data, mostly really used for converting simple text that is applied in your documents that actually come in, whether it could be invoices, could be purchase orders, etc. And if you're a process owner, I would really want to see a lot of analytics for a specific process that's actually going through a platform. Analytics really is about giving a process owner insights on how my process is doing. Could be an accounts payable process, could be an accounts receivable process, could be a supply chain process if you're in manufacturing. And if you're in IT, I just want to make sure as an IT guy, I want to understand how the platform is performing. So I want to understand the operational insights of it. The combination of RPA plus artificial intelligence through cognitive abilities plus analytics is our definition of the intelligent digital workforce. And a lot of enterprises today have started with RPA. They've moved along really to use artificial intelligence and machine learning coupled with analytics. And what we have also done is in this day and age of crisis, there is something called a digital worker. if there are possibilities for us to hire a digital worker, and you will absolutely need this during times of crisis, which is where our bot store really comes into the picture, where you can actually have the ability to download a digital worker which can pretty much perform 80 to 90% of your tasks right on day one without having the need to really train the worker. So the digital worker, for example, I could download an accounts payable clerk. I could download a financial controller, for example, and you will absolutely need these digital workers moving forward in the new norm. So with that, what does a platform really look like? If you're starting out today, and if you're thinking of really looking at an intelligent digital workforce, look no beyond, because we have orchestration in the form of our enterprise. Our cognitive abilities really give you the ability to look at artificial intelligence and machine learning. And like I mentioned, our Bot Insight platform helps you with advanced analytics. And if you don't know what processes really to automate, whether in your front-end processes or your back-end applications, for example, we really have something called a discovery process or a discovery bot, which identifies processes in your environment, which can absolutely go and be automated. And the good thing about the platform is that you can deploy it on-prem, which is in your four walls of your enterprise. You can deploy it through our native cloud offering. And we are actually seeing a lot of enterprises adopt the cloud offering these days because it's turnkey, very low total cost of ownership. And I'll highlight about that as we move forward. And the bot store really helps you to download a digital worker, is extremely turnkey. You can start your intelligent automation with a click of a button. And a lot of the delivery can actually be controlled through a mobile app as well. Now, why should you leverage an intelligent digital workforce, right? So all this sounds good, but I'm sure you're asking questions on why should you really do it? One, let's take the crisis outside of it, right? So the intelligent digital workforce, we've been in the business for about 15 years. We have about 3,500 large enterprise customers who've already started using the digital workforce even without the current crisis. A lot of our enterprise customers really look at optimizing labor costs today. They want to make sure that they increase capacity as you move forward. It's a combination to make sure that not only their employees are much more fruitful on a daily basis, but it's about making sure they have increased capacity for times like these. Secondly, it's all about customer satisfaction. If I can increase speed, if I can increase accuracy without any errors that are actually performed, and if I can have a workforce that's available 24/7/365, it makes it much more easy for me to make sure that my customers are satisfied. Think about a sector like insurance. If I'm actually processing an insurance claim, as a customer, I would actually want my claim to be processed faster. Look no beyond, the digital workforce exactly helps you do that. A lot of enterprises, could be life sciences, could be healthcare, could be pharma, for example, you need a lot of compliance. Industries are really looking to the digital workforce to improve compliance, auditability, and have better control on their processes as well. The key thing about the digital workforce that is delivered is a lot of business intelligence through our analytics product. The digital workforce drives process insights as well as operational insights and actually can connect downstream to a variety of business intelligence platform as well, giving you a lot of data at your fingertips, which would have not otherwise been available. You should leverage a digital workforce if you're thinking about taking your enterprise from where you are today, eventually towards some sort of transformation. So if you're really looking at digitally transforming your enterprise, you need the digital workforce. And at the end of the day, let's look at the future of work. If you really want to enhance employee morale, Anand mentioned mundane, repetitive tasks. So if you can put a digital worker into the hands of every single employee today, to make sure at least 50 to 60% of their mundane repetitive tasks are taken over by a digital worker, it absolutely enhances their morale. Let's go ahead and look at some sort of a poll. I'll just share a question with all of you. If you can just take about 20 or 30 seconds to just answer our first question, that will help us determine where you really are. So I'm just posing a question to you. In your current enterprises, I'm assuming you can see this. What are the critical challenges that you face in your automation journey today? Please take about 20 to 25 seconds to vote. You can just click on any of these options. Is it justification of ROI? Is it your inability to scale today? Is it about a technology vendor? Is this about process identification, or have you not yet started at all? Great. I'm just going to end the poll. Okay, so let me see how you all voted. All right, looks like everybody voted 100% on ROI justification. Fantastic. Let's just move forward. Coming back to my session. As we move forward, let's quickly recap our digital worker before I show you a quick demonstration and a specific use case that we've actually worked on, which involves a digital worker which is actually downloaded directly from our bot store. The bot store basically gives you a digital worker. You can actually download a specific role, whether it's based on skills, based on a specific process, based on a specific application, or a digital worker by role. Could be an accounts payable clerk, could be a financial controller, like I mentioned. You can go into our bot store at botstore.automationanywhere.com and look at specific digital workers that actually benefit your enterprise. And a lot of partners like Anand's today have added a lot of value to our bot store. So they bring in their use cases, they bring in their expertise, and help make sure that our store is as robust as possible. Right? Think about this as a marketplace which connects the buyer and seller. So this is a very important way for you to really look at digital transformation. We defined the digital workforce. Let's see how all the components of the digital workforce actually work together. So I'm actually demonstrating a combination of attended automation, which really involves a human being, and an unattended automation, which really doesn't need a human being as well. And we'll see how cognitive AI also takes part in this. And we'll also figure out how does the bot store come in and help out. What we're actually trying to do is we're actually adding a couple of triggers. If you're calling a contact center, I'm actually adding a couple of triggers on the platform. So if I'm calling a contact center to add my spouse to an existing policy, if the guy basically enters the policy number on the phone on the application, and what that does, it basically triggers an attended bot. The attended bot then basically fetches some data, and upon entering the driver's license, essentially figures out the data of the spouse. And what our cognitive technologies then do is basically go into the person's data and then extract specific information onto the application. That's where our cognitive ability comes in. What we can then do is go into the bot store and basically download something called a premium insurance, a premium policy to calculate premiums that's applied. And an unattended bot runs at the background to calculate the premiums. And the agent can essentially then go in and invoke another attended bot to essentially go ahead and print out the spouse's details, and that gets added on to your current insurance premium as well. So the combination of attended plus unattended, which is our enterprise RPA, along with cognitive abilities of extracting data from the policy that you actually just saw, along with mailing or basically going ahead and downloading the premium calculator from the bot store and just mailing your final insurance card to the spouse and yourself, is something that's automatically done and in quick time too. So that demonstrates how you actually use the entire digital workforce platform. Let's do another quick poll. Let me just go ahead and let's launch them, assuming you can see this. Questions for the audience. Where are you today in terms of your automation journey? What's the scale? Are you, let's say, if you're using a product, if you're not using a product, are you at around 10 digital workers or bots? Are you between 10 to 100? Are you between 10 to 500? Or have you not started at all? Let's take another 10 or 15 seconds to vote. I'm assuming that everybody can actually see it. You can actually click on the options, and then I'll end the poll in a couple of seconds. Great. Let's see how you all did. Okay, so it looks like most of you haven't begun your automation journey yet, which is fantastic, because I think the idea of this discussion today is to see how do we really help you in your automation journey. So let me just go back to the deck as well. So this is great, right? So what are we doing about making sure that we help you in your automation journey? It's great that we speak about our intelligent automation platform, but for us, we believe in falling in love with the problem. It's not about the solution. So you have to fall in love with your problem, and the platform and technology and product that we have is something that helps everyone, every enterprise really scale and transform your enterprises. So for us, the problem that we've fallen in love with is what would it really take for enterprises to accelerate your journey towards becoming a digital enterprise? That's the problem that we've actually fallen in love with. So for us, if you've not started your automation journey, which is what most of you have voted, we believe that a start typically takes 3 to 6 months in a lot of enterprises. We believe that anyone should be able to use the product and the platform. You should be able to ideally automate anything. And we believe that you should be able to automate anywhere, right? You should be able to ensure that if you're a business user, IT, or a tech geek or an IT person, you should be able to use it. You should be able to automate anything, a front office process, a back office process, and you should be able to automate anywhere, whether it's on premise or on the cloud. The product that we have, while we've typically seen enterprises start their journey, which takes anywhere between three to 6 months, the product that we have currently ensures that you can start your journey within 1 to 4 months. So that's what we've done. And what does that really mean? The latest offering of our platform is completely web-based. It's completely cloud native. So it's essentially turnkey. It offers 3 critical things: very good experience, delivered very nicely, and has a great ecosystem which it actually adheres to. And which is why a cloud native offering gives you all these benefits, because you can actually start your automation journey right on day one, and it actually shrinks the time that is actually taken to start. It doesn't take away the fact that you can still essentially start your automation journey on-prem as well, because we understand that a lot of large enterprises would still really like to start their automation journey on-prem. But we've started to see the cloud adoption really kick into high gear, especially in this crisis. So the platform really can be used, like I mentioned, can be used by IT. Very easy, can scale automatically, has a low total cost of ownership, very simple enough to be used by a business user, who we call as a citizen developer. A business user today can go and automate a lot of different mundane, repetitive things that a business user does every day, and has a lot of value add for developers as well. It's very rich. It's got a lot of powerful tools that are actually built in, and essentially it allows developers to collaborate with the business user. Moving forward, if you have not started your digital transformation journey yet, like I mentioned, you have options. You have an on-premise option where the product is really architected to make sure that you can actually self-manage it and it's on-prem. Or if it's on the cloud, it's completely managed by us and by our partners, has a zero footprint, infinitely scalable if you're really moving towards scale and transformation, and essentially use RPA as a service. And we're starting to see a lot of trends emerge. The cloud option is very, very interesting, because a cloud service ensures that data security and protection is managed. If you're tech geeks on the call, we ensure that no data really gets to the cloud. The server essentially just keeps a lot of operational data, and all data stays within your on-prem premises unless you're asking us to share data onto the cloud. So we offer a privacy-first approach. The plugin architecture ensures that it's extremely easy to install the product, very simple enough to deploy, very minimalistic maintenance that is actually required because a SaaS offering ensures that we actually do all the maintenance, and very easy to scale. You really don't have to add insane amount of hardware. Your IT doesn't have to add any insane amount of infrastructure because scale is automatically taken care by us. If you really look at data, this is from Cisco. Cisco has come out with something a couple of weeks ago on what the cloud really does. Cisco is really saying that 95% of all cloud workloads in the next couple of years will actually be processed by a lot of these cloud data centers, which is very, very encouraging. You'll need something like that in this day and age. And a high percentage of cloud workloads will be public. Public cloud options is something that Cisco is very much orchestrating and recommending as well. And the last point is extremely interesting. If you're a mid-market or below, and if you have IT constraints and infra constraints, they believe that 75% of your workload really will be used as software as a service, which is where RPA really is moving forward to. I just want to show you a quick demonstration of one of our use cases by a customer, where this is completely on the cloud. As you can see, we have a firm which aggregates a lot of properties in the real estate market. What the company does is they look at a daily inventory that they actually manage from the cloud. They have a lot of assets that they manage, and the daily report actually is given to them, and a financial forecasting of how their properties are doing, who are actually selling, who are actually buying. And I'm actually running this directly from our public cloud. And what this essentially does is it gives you data at your fingertips instead of somebody going in and manually aggregating data on a boring Excel spreadsheet on a daily basis, while their digital worker essentially goes on top of the application. And what the application does, it actually spits out a couple of Excel spreadsheets, and the digital worker analyzes the spreadsheets, gives out a daily inventory, for example, very relevant to manufacturing and retail as well, and or supply chain, and essentially gives you a daily, weekly, monthly forecast at your fingertips. We'll just let it run. So you can actually see the digital worker running on the bottom right-hand corner, and this aggregates all your daily reports. I'm assuming you can still see my screen. Okay. Let's go.
Sorry, Ganesh, I'll just interrupt for a second there. I think we all are having some technical difficulty with the poll. So I would request if you can do that at the end of the session or maybe later.
Okay, so let's move past poll 3. If you're having technical difficulties, let's move forward. I'll just quickly run you through a few use cases. We've got, as I said, RPA really is completely domain agnostic, it's industry agnostic, it's vertical agnostic as well. A few use cases on manufacturing. We have a lot of customers in the manufacturing segment where we really analyze inventory on a daily basis. And one of their challenges is to make sure, how do you really provide a uniform inventory across the organization as well. And a few benefits there is really to make sure that the data is available very quickly, it's accurate, it's error-free, and basically ensures that the detail matches what the processes are actually doing, specifically for a business user. A couple of our technology customers really use the digital workforce to ensure that customer satisfaction with quick problem resolutions are the need of the hour. Essentially, if you look at processes in the technology industry, it's all about maintaining SLAs, looking at dashboards, looking at analysis of data, looking at case assignments that are actually handed over to IT, and fast ticket resolutions. So we want to make sure that technology companies can use this for even workload distributions amongst each support engineer to support their customers as well. Symantec, for example, is one of our high growth customers. Essentially, Symantec was looking at some sort of a solution to reduce the amount of manual processes, specifically in the security and the compliance areas. And the solution that was identified really looked at about 3 factors to drive their operational excellence, which is basically looking at suitability for internal analysis of their process design, really to look at measuring what type of bots are actually required to automate their processes, And thirdly, what sort of value add that actually brings to specific security aspects. It probably just took us about 3 odd weeks for each of their divisions to look at each of their security processes and move towards automation as well. Moving forward with retail, I know a couple of customers today are in the retail segment. One of the challenges that we've really looked at retail is to, especially in the consumer goods, is to look at customer CSAT, which I spoke about earlier as well, specifically for purchase order processing. And some of the benefits that were actually brought out was that the extraction of data was pretty much 100% consistent across the organization. So it reduced a lot of manual errors. And what our digital workers really did is we automatically pulled data and from each of the purchase order systems, and we started pushing them into the legacy system as well. And this started to ensure that the customer satisfaction from the purchase order processing was at its highest. So let's look at a journey really. So if you're a customer, if you're an enterprise, you've really not started your journey, automation really provides you a very, very quick start. It's very simple, easy to start. You can actually create a digital worker 2 times faster with our latest version of the product. It hardly takes you less than 3 months to get started on your journey. And what do you do after you start, right? So our platform and our teams ensure that we're just not happy with just you starting. We want to make sure that with our partners, we help you accelerate. We want to make sure we identify more processes within your organization that can actually be automated over a period of time. And you receive rapid ROI as well with a very, very low total cost of ownership. Very simple, easy to accelerate. This journey takes you about 3 to 12 months, about a year. And how do you really scale? It's all about scaling and transforming. So you have a choice to make whether you want to get into an on-prem solution or on the cloud. My viewpoint is you should look at it as much as possible on the cloud. And typically 12 plus months is where you would really scale. And where do we really come in to help you on this journey with our partners? For us, it's all about making sure that our customer success teams are always on standby and you have support learning tracks for all your job functions. Our customer success, along with our partners, ensure that it's easy for you to accelerate and scale. And of course, like I said, you have a largest marketplace of readily available digital workers and bots. Every time you think of a process, it's pretty straightforward for you to just go ahead and think of the marketplace to ensure that you have your bots as your digital workers. Just coming to the fag end of what I wanted to talk about. See, the problem of automation today has always been a problem of time. You really think you have a lot of time, but you actually don't. You really think that, look, does it take a lot of time for me to automate? No, it actually doesn't. Typically, enterprises think, yeah, I can take 6 to 12 to 24 months to start and scale. What we've done is with our latest product offering and our customer success teams and our digital workers on the bot store, it's pretty much simple, and you can actually shrink that journey between 0 to about 12 months. So that's how simple and easy is it to start and scale. So let's say you're just thinking of starting. It's very, very simple. So we basically follow 3 models, and I'll probably end on this. There are 3 different models, right? So you can either start with one unit, one department, and look at a lot of aspects on processes. Pick a few processes, mission critical processes. And it's all about saying, look, I'm going to start at one process and let's see how it goes. This is what we term as a Reagan model. It's all about trust, but verify. I'll go with one process, one digital worker. Let me see how that happens. Secondly, there are models where we believe that, look, if I'm a CEO of a large company, I want to make sure that every employee of mine is equipped with a digital colleague. It's about democratization of RPA, really. And we call this as the Obama model, where we think democratization really works. I want to basically make sure I put a digital worker in everybody's hands. Finally, if you're thinking, look, I want to start on day one. I want to really look at digital transformation on day one. I don't want to look at a single process, but I really have a dream to say, I want to take my enterprise towards digital transformation right from day one. I want to start thinking about it. That for us is the Martin Luther King model, right? So you have basically 3 models you can always adopt if you've really not started your journey. And it's very, very simple to start on any of these models as well. Let me end with this. For us, when we talk to our enterprise customers and potential customers, it's no longer about productivity. You have to really think about moving forward from productivity to progress. It's no longer about productivity tools. It's about making sure you can progress as employees, you can progress your own enterprise, you can get your customers to progress as well. So you should, as leaders today, think about really progressing your industry, advancing your industry towards more and more of the digital workforce concept. And that's where you would essentially move towards a tectonic shift from productivity to progress. So finally, I think I'll just have one question to everyone. So as leaders, you should really think about what role will you really play once you've heard us all in this webinar to really take your enterprise towards digital transformation, and what role would you really play in this bold new bot economy? So I'll just leave you with those thoughts, and I'll just hand it over back to Anand. And Anand, you and I can just probably just talk about and just recap.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Ganesh, for that insightful talk. So a couple of questions that I thought that I should pose to you, and I'm sure it will be beneficial to all the participants too. So given the current crisis situation that we are in, so are there any immediate tactics that you believe that organizations can embark on to start their automation journey?
Absolutely. I think that's a very good question, Anand. We've seen a lot of enterprises over the last 90 days when the crisis has actually unfolded come and talk about what should be a future of work. What if something like this happens? What would you really advise? For us, the methodology is very simple. If you have not started on your automation journey, you're actually lagging behind when you're actually comparing yourself with competition. The idea is to pick one simple process and see how does this simple process work? What should I really use to automate a very, very simple process? And then when you start to see these benefits unfold, you will actually see how powerful a digital workforce really is. And my advice is start by empowering your workers with a digital worker. So the idea is it's not very difficult to start. It's very simple, it's turnkey. We've seen a lot of enterprise customers who have never seen automation before talk about a simple process that they've actually taken on their floor. We've seen retail customers come forward. We've seen manufacturing customers come forward, especially during this time when they're actually shut. They've identified simple enough processes to say, can I give you access to your platform and can you help me through the cloud? So the adoption through the cloud is really a turnkey solution in the time of crisis to start a journey like this. So very, very simple, pick a process, do a proof of concept through our partners like yourself. Partners will determine how a proof of concept actually works, pick a process, and very, very simple to go forward from there.
Okay. And a sub question to this question that I asked. So should organizations start looking at automating processes that are part of the pain area, or should they focus on a gain area?
Good question again. I would essentially say, based on our experience, it's almost like a try and buy methodology, right? So the first model that I actually spoke about, see, we advise enterprises not to get caught up in looking at very, very complex processes on day one. You will actually get bogged down and your automation journey will never see the light of day. So it's about making sure that if there are pain points, even if it's a very, very fragmented, complex process, pick a small little process, pick a tree within that process and get those gains going immediately. So it's about where do you see a lot of value add in processes that are very simple. It's about making sure that you identify a process which is easier to convince your leadership that, look, something like this really works before you embark on a very, very critical, mission critical, complex process. So I would advise that you pick something simple. If it's your pain area, so be it, but identify these gains very, very quickly. And Anand, so I have a question for you. where do you see the future of work really unfolding as we really move forward? What kind of industries and enterprises do you really see embarking on this journey? Is it high tech? Is it manufacturing? Is it supply chain? Where do you really see the industry moving forward?
So, given the kind of evolving scenario that we are seeing over the last 4 5 months, uh, I think the areas where automation will really start having immediate impact would be on the financial sector. I think a lot of information, a lot of analysis is quickly required, and there's no time to actually go through the grind of getting it created by a human workforce. We need it done fast. We need it done quickly. So that's an area. The other area would be probably to look at the efficiencies that can be brought into the manufacturing segment. A lot of processes that probably have been done traditionally, and probably we'll have to revisit that, and a lot of automation can be brought into some of those processes. And thirdly, I think from a very broad and very important element from a social impact, I think healthcare would be the next area of high demand for automation. I think a lot of customers, a lot of organizations will need to do it. These would be the top three. Then, of course, you will have a lot of others who will take on.
Thank you so much, Anand. We also, in the interest of time, so we have a customer who has actually joined us on this webinar. Bhaskara actually heads IT for Carl Zeiss. He's in charge of managing the Asia Pacific and Japan region. Bhaskara, if you're on the webinar, would you mind sharing your journey from an automation perspective, the benefits that you've actually attained, so that it actually educates all of us on this webinar, please?
Hi Ganesh, good morning. Thank you very much for having this conversation. Sorry for joining a little late, so please kindly excuse me. So I think in the interest of time, I also wanted to give a quick overview of what we started. So if you look at it, we also thought of doing quite a lot of automation, because Zeiss as a company, I think as Anand said, I head the IT for Carl Zeiss India and responsible for the APAC region. So we have got different business groups within Zeiss. So we are into microscope, we are into medical devices, we are into vision care, we are into industrial quality solutions, and we are also into consumer optics. So typically what happens in our places, we have got a lot of activities which happens over time, and a lot of things has to be done in the automation. So if you look at it, a lot of people do a lot of jobs within organization, maybe back end or the front end. And if you look at it, we have got a lot of service people, which is in the ground, a lot of sales people in the ground. So we thought of doing a lot of automation. So then initially, I think we thought of doing an automation almost 1.5 years back. So we also did an analysis of it, whether it is viable to do it at that point of time. So we felt, okay, it's too early to do it. And then we started, I think, 6 to 8 months back, we revisited, can we do some automations? So that's the time we started to have some sort of an looking into different aspects, look out automation anywhere. Why we wanted to do an automation? We want to scale up our business. So we don't want to increase the human resources. At least we expect human resources to do a quality of the job, whatever it requires. For example, we took it in accounts payable as an POC. We did it with, I think, to name it, with Automation Anywhere, as well as other people in the market. So we tried to analyze which one would suit us better. We did a long-term analysis, and I should say thanks to the Automation Anywhere team. They were deeply involved and tried to help us doing a POC sort of thing. So then finally we said, yeah, it's a workable solution. It works. We did it in AP in one of the 2-3 processes. So then the time came across, okay, I think we are set to go, but is it again a viable product? So then we had a management discussions to understand, is it possible to do it? And I also had a discussion with all the business leads to understand what is their plan in the future, what is the business is going to grow up. So for business, since we are into the multiple divisions, people came by with the mixed feedback, saying that how the business is going to grow up. And I got a pretty positive feedback in doing the automation. Even some places where we work with different sectors, typically with the government sector, private sector. So finally we said, okay, we are ready to go ahead, picked up automation anywhere. Because what happens is, guys, we are very much focused with the security. So just to give you a quick example, I think we don't allow any own devices, or to some extent, I would say we don't allow Android devices to be precise into the network, because the whole Zeiss network is one. So that's where I said automation people, see, I can't move to the cloud at this point of time. Can I do it in-house? Then they came back and said, okay, they gave us a pool of options, what has to be done. Then we picked up, okay, let's do it on-premise, let's implement it. Then we had a discussion with Automation Anywhere to purchase the licenses. And then finally, I think we again arrived with 3 partners who can implement us for this particular aspect. Again, now coming back, which are all the fields we should do it? We said, okay, let's not touch which is going to impact the customer. Because I think it will have if it goes well, it's good. If it doesn't go well, then we'll have a problem. Then we said, okay, again, we go into the account payables only. There were a lot of processes, and then we said, okay, let's also touch treasury. So these are all the 2 topics we picked it up and did an pilot work. So it was a great success, and we showcased to the whole business groups heads, and they were quite happy. And one of the topic which came across is, why don't we increase the usage? So now if you look at it, just to give one of the example, in the vision care business, we had one particular person who was doing a lot of reporting activities, lot of Excel work and all. So with the help of automation, what we did was, today I think sitting now, we have 80% of her work has been automated. So everything. So automation from our legacy systems, moving to the Excels, from there into my SAP systems, and then to Salesforce. The whole process, whole chain is automated, and the reconciliation is also taken care. So to be precise, I think once the lockdown opens, the person comes up, she can actually do a quality of the job. What is the quality of the job? She can actually look into the different customer segment. Instead of pulling the report, accumulating, she can actually look into the customer segment, see who is doing better with our tools, and then give suggestions to the business. Instead of pulling the report, trying to do it everything in Excel and send it to them. So to be precise, she used to spend almost 6 hours in a day sending reports to different business guys, different sales guys, different customers. All those things has been cut off now. So this is the second step which we did it. And the journey, we want to take things forward. We have done a core team of automation guys. To be precise, we have got now almost 6 people in the team who are going to drive across the organization with the different business groups. So now we are in the discussion with the business partner, and we also did a 1 full week of discovery week. Work with all functions, all businesses, all across the organization for 1 week. Identify a lot of processes. To be precise, I think we have come across almost 52 processes which can be automated. This is actually, to be precise, to say as a macro level. Now with a team of almost 6 people, we are trying to go in depth into each processes to do it. And we are also in the discussions to set up an COE basically within Zeiss. So to have a complete roadmap for next 3 years, how do we automate it? So the only thing which feedback given to me from the business sets is, these are all the places we don't want to increase the headcounts, but the business is going to increase. Kindly look into it and start automating the things. So our journey going to be next. We are going to have the full landscape and the full roadmap for the automation, and planning to have a center of excellence. This is what we have done. And to be precise, at this point of time where we have it at a pandemic situation, I think this is something which is going to help us a lot. To be precise, especially on a manufacturing sectors, you look at it, offices are not open, and the factories are closed. But once things come back, I think that's where we will have to do the full-fledged automation. Thanks, Ganesh. That's a quick brief about the whole journey.
Thank you so much, Bhaskar. I think that journey of yours is extremely impressive, and kudos to you for actually taking the lead into making sure that your enterprise really has started. You're in the middle of scaling, and hopefully we will get you towards transformation as well. So thank you so much, and it's a real pleasure to have you on the call. Neeraj, I know it's the interest of time. We probably have about 5 odd minutes. Do we have questions from the panel or questions from everybody on the call, either to Mr. Bhaskara, Mr. Anand, and do you want to run the poll as well? We've got about 5 minutes, and then we'll probably just end with a thank you note.
Sure. So I think we can run the poll. We have kind of fixed it. And if you want, we can start with, again, the poll number 1 that we had. I'm just going to launch it for everyone. So basically, I mean, the question is, where is your organization in the automation journey now? And just we'll give a few seconds there for everyone to kind of share their responses. All right, so I could see there are quite a few responses there. So let me kind of share the results here. All right, Ganesh.
Yeah, interesting mix. And I'm glad that about 22% of you all are actually planning and experimenting, which is the right way to go about it. At least you're thinking about starting. And 22% are already in the middle of scaling. So which means you exactly know what automation is all about, and you're really thinking about scaling. For the 56% who have not yet started, it's not too late. And I think you still have a lot of things you can think about in your enterprises as what processes do you really need to pick up, and absolutely delighted to help you through our partners to do a proof of concept, run a pilot. If you've not started yet, let's help you start your automation journey.
All right.
Do you want
just
to
want to launch the second question there on the poll. I mean, just wanted to see if anyone has a question. You can unmute yourself and go ahead and direct your question to any of the panelists.
Ganesh, hi, this is Anshu. I have a question. I understand that you spoke about nicely about the current scenario amid COVID. But when I speak to many of the customers and my colleagues here, I feel that security is one of the very top-notch, top-of-the-mind thing that they are considering right now, because many of the people are working from home and business is working from home at the end of the day. We have heard about bot security, which has come up lately. Would you like to throw some light that how bot security can help us in bridging this gap of business security here?
Absolutely. So when you pick something called bot security, right? It's all about these aspects related to encryption. So everybody understands what encryption methodologies really are. What the digital workforce platform really does is it ensures that encryption is at its highest standards, whether you're working from home and trying to invoke a digital workforce to look at a specific process that you're trying to automate as part of your attended automation. There are 2 different types of standards. You basically have something called AES 256, which is basically the highest levels of encryption today, 1 level below military grade encryption. And while you're trying to look at critical processes, you have to make sure there is no man in the middle attack that you actually understand. So bot security essentially brings in all of these aspects with something called TLS 1.2 as well, which is what we use from a transport layer security as well. So all of these engulf together as part of the digital workforce platform, whether you're working from home, through an attended automation that you're actually doing as part of your contact center role, or whether you're running some sort of an unattended process in your background which automatically runs, you have to make sure that the highest levels of security is part of your bot security program. And that actually comes in inbuilt with the platform. So it leaves you and your mind with a lot of ease, especially when you're actually trying to connect from home, trying to do your daily mundane repetitive tasks or whatever you do. The highest levels of encryption have to be maintained, and that's what the digital workforce platform brings.
Oh, great. Thanks, Ganesh. One last question, a very valid question, which I have in mind is that for organizations like us, what do you think that what could be the lowest hanging application that we can start automating? I understood that, you have given us 3 different models, but as per you, what are the lowest hanging applications that we should start thinking automating them?
Let me rephrase your question a little bit, Anshu, if I may. So I wouldn't really look at an application being automated. I would take an application and look at a low-hanging process, which can actually be automated within an application. The good thing about this is that it's completely domain agnostic, it is application agnostic, it is process agnostic, and it is environment agnostic as well. We have actually seen a lot of our adoption of the digital workforce really tailor around mainly an ERP suite of applications, whether it's an SAP, whether it's a JD Edwards or an Oracle/Siebel. We've seen a lot of adoption on an enterprise grade ERP application. And within these ERP applications, we've seen a lot of low hanging fruits, right? Like Bhaskara mentioned, we've seen a lot of purchase orders come in. We've seen a lot of invoices come in. These are tracked within an Excel spreadsheet after extracting it from a PDF document. And from there, how do you really extract each of these and transport them to your backend application, which could be a Salesforce, could be an SAP, could be a JD Edwards. So these are some low-hanging fruits that we actually see. Accounts payable, accounts receivable, Bhaskara mentioned that as well. All of these are very, very low-hanging fruits. If you're actually looking at manual data entry from extracting an information from a document to an Excel and then getting that into a legacy ERP system, whether it's an SAP or a mainframe application or a JD Edwards or Oracle, there are a lot of these small little low-hanging processes that you can actually automate within these applications.
Thanks, Ganesh. That really helps. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, Ganesh. So I launched the third polling question, and let me just go ahead and launch the results on the screen for you.
Okay, so what is the most important aspect for you to achieve results from automation? Increased productivity is very, very encouraging, which means a lot of you have paid attention to my initial part of the discussion. Very, very, very valid. Improved quality and compliance. And I think that also ties into some sort of customer sat as well. So productivity, quality, and compliance, if 77% of you are actually saying that, then you're actually on the right track. And again, we've broken it down into higher customer sat, very valid as well. And I'm glad that nobody has really pinpointed on reduced staffing in this time of crisis. Neeraj, I think we are pretty much out of time. I think we're 5 minutes over. Do you want to just share any other questions that have come in from the audience, or if not, we go into the other couple of questions that you have, and then we could just end the webinar with some closing notes.
Right. So I don't see the question on the window. I think we can ask, I mean, all of you, whoever has a question, you can just unmute yourself and introduce yourself and go ahead and ask the question. While I know we have already exceeded the time, I'll just launch the fourth and the last question that we had, and just do that.
Okay, hi, this is Vijay. I have a question for Bhaskara, I guess.
Hi, Vijay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Hi, Vijay.
So, yeah, hi, Bhaskara. So this is like, what is your like the approach towards getting this introduced to your organization? How do you go and take it up with your leadership team and say, okay, hey guys, this is how it is? So what is your approach?
See, what my approach usually most of the time, no, I do myself, because I will try and get myself convinced. because usually what I do is I'll pick up some of the pain points and then work with the team. Usually what I did in this case, I didn't present it to my leadership team. I made the users to present it to the leadership team. That's one of the big change which happened. And I also think that everybody who mentioned it, typically reducing the staff, that's something which nobody mentioned it. It's really good. When I was giving it to the leadership team, what I did was these guys who have used it, who have actually did it, the pilot, they spoke about it. I was only sitting in the back end triggering the guys to do it. That's where the leadership team really felt, because instead of me being a technology guy and IT guy speaking, the truth, the reality, the end guys spoke. That's where it picked up really well. And back end, what I did was, what is the cost benefit analysis? What is the ROI and all that? As an head of IT, I did it. But as a process improvement, the end users did it for the leadership team.
Okay. That's a fantastic approach. Thank you.
Yep.
Neeraj, do we have time for one last question? Okay. So let's look at the polling results of some critical challenges faced by you. Obviously, a fourth of you have not yet started, so I'm sure you will really go through this as you go along. ROI justification seems to be gaining a lot of traction, right? I think it's not very difficult to look at ROI here. Bhaskara added his words of wisdom as well. So what we should probably do is have Anand and team work with each of you to look at specific ROIs that you're actually looking for, whether it's on the platform side of it or on the services side of it. It's ROI, you should remember, it is just not attained overnight. So it is a journey, which is why we took you through a start, scale, and transform approach. You will see benefits of ROI kicking in through your scale journey as you move forward. So ROI takes time. It's just doesn't happen overnight, but you will see the fruits of ROI as you actually move forward in your digital transformation journey. I think we are 10 minutes over time. Anand, any closing comments from you?
Yeah, so Ganesh, I think, we've had a fairly interesting session today, and I'm sure most of the participants would have got a fairly good insight into what are the areas they can actually start considering for automation. And I think the team from NewWave and from Automation Anywhere will engage with all of them, and we'll take it to a point where probably they would want to discover. And you talked about a discovery workshop. Those are the first steps that we would probably like to embark on.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Anand. Thank you to everybody who's made their time today to join our webinar. I'm sure you will all go back to your drawing boards, talk to your leaders, and as Bhaskara also mentioned, there are different approaches, and the approach that he and his organization have taken is a very democratic approach, which basically really defines the future of work. And we truly believe that you should augment your workforce with a digital worker. Put a digital worker in the hands of every single employee if you can. Make sure that they feel comfortable enough on a daily basis to work with a digital worker. It ensures that their morale is boosted. And in times of contingency and crisis, you will always have a digital worker by your side to help you 24/7/365. So if you have not started on your automation journey, please think about it. It's not very difficult to do. If you've started on your automation journey, you as leaders have to plan for scale. If you're in the process of scaling, the idea is to ensure that you take your enterprise towards digital transformation. So with that, thank you everyone. Have a good rest of the day. And if you still have any questions, please reach out to us either through Anand or anybody else on this panel, and we'll be more than happy to help you through your digital transformation journey. Thank you again, and have a wonderful day ahead.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.